Federal Drive is presented by GEHA, Government Employees Health Association, proudly providing health and dental benefits to federal employees and their families. Visit GEHA.com.
Advanced computing and AI are reshaping nearly every sector, but access to those capabilities remains uneven. The National Science Foundation is launching a new effort aimed at broadening who can use advanced computing. Dr. Erwin Gianchandani joined Federal Drive host Terry Gerton from the National Science Foundation to discuss the effort.
You have a very interesting new initiative. Let's start with the challenge before we get into the details. There are reports that indicate today's college grads are really poorly prepared for the AI world that they're about to enter. When you think about that, what is NSF trying to solve relative to creating an AI-ready population?
Yeah, so that's a great point. I think that the challenges that we face today with respect to AI, yes, our college graduates is one category of individuals, but I really think it permeates the nation as a whole, right? When you think about artificial intelligence and all the conversation that's taking place around it, I think it's fair to say that everybody has heard of the term AI. People are talking about it left and right? But very few people, I think, actually truly appreciate what AI actually is, right? And so I think that what we are trying to do at the National Science Foundation as an agency of the federal government that's sort of the leading agency when it comes to helping prepare talent for the myriad jobs in the sciences and technology and engineering and mathematics and sort of the adjacent areas to what we call STEM. What we're trying to do is really help prepare talent everywhere across this country for this AI revolution that we're witnessing. So, in many ways, I think it's fair to say that we're at a little bit of an inflection point. AI is already reshaping how Americans work and learn and build and create new technologies, new capabilities. And it's not abstract. It's not far off, right? It's embedding in everyday activities, like how we search for information, how businesses operate, how communities deliver services. And yet at the same time, I think it's also the case that not every community has access to the same knowledge, to the same set of tools, the same workforce capacity that's necessary to really fully benefit from these breakthroughs around AI. And so what we're trying to do with regard to the AI Ready America initiative that we've launched is really try to bring those capabilities, that knowledge, that skill set to every American in every corner of this country to the maximal extent possible.
That is an ambitious goal. The Notice of Funding Opportunity envisions AI-ready coordination hubs in every U.S. state and territory. How will that network help close the gap that you just articulated?
Yeah, so in many ways, the concept of AI Ready America and how we're thinking about implementing this is modeled a lot off of the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Cooperative Extension Program that you and some of your listeners may be familiar with, right? That was a program that was initiated in many ways to try to help connect students and talent to some of the agricultural technologies and capabilities in every corner of the country, in rural communities, just the same as other parts as well. And so what we're trying to do with these coordination hubs in many ways is to be able to really help be that bridge builder, right? I think it's fair to say that today there's a lot of activity, there's a lot of discussion, there's a lot happening in the space of artificial intelligence. We have states and local governments, we have universities, we have community colleges, we have workforce organizations, we have small businesses, we have large businesses, right? So there's a lot of folks who are in this space who are grappling with, how do I leverage AI for maximal impact? How do I train talent for that purpose? And so our goal with AI Ready America is not to be duplicative, but rather to, in many ways, try to be that connector that tries to stitch together those different actors and individuals and organizations, as well as sort of the opportunity that AI presents with the need where we see AI potentially being able to bring benefit. So, for example, if I am a state coordination hub, if you will, I think the question that we're trying to answer with that hub is, how can we connect talent in rural communities, in urban communities, in exurb communities, et cetera, with the local level challenges that exist to be able to see, can they bring to bear data and AI-oriented approaches and solutions to help address those challenges. So what are the city services that could potentially be enhanced, right? What are some of the small business needs that could potentially be addressed? And so can these coordination hubs really be those connectors to provide talent with hands-on experiential opportunities, internships, apprenticeships, and the like? How do they help connect that talent with, for example, stackable credits or other types of offerings that community colleges, technical schools, vocational programs, universities are offering beyond simply degrees, but inclusive of degrees as well, such that they can complement those practical experiences, those in-classroom trainings together to be able to then be on the front lines of the AI revolution. And if I can take just one more minute, Terry, one other thing that I would say is we really view this program and the coordination hubs, for instance, as helping people grow in their understanding of AI over time. How can I meet people where they are? So Terry, you may have some basic fluency of AI, for example. You may know what AI is. Sometimes we look at a device and everybody thinks that's AI. Well, no, it's potentially a software component on that device that constitutes the AI system. So you have a fluency of what AI is. How do I help you progress through those experiences, through those credits and learnings, et cetera, to the point where now you have, so you have sort of that basic literacy of AI, and now you're progressing to the point where you have fluency in not just understanding what AI is, but you can actually get to the point where you can use an AI system, not just large language models, but other types of AI systems as well in your day-to-day activities. And then how do I progress further from literacy to fluency to now to the point where I have proficiency in AI and maybe I become the next developer of the next AI system or capability that's out there as well. So I think part of what we're trying to do with these coordination hubs is be those connectors, help surface opportunities for talent in every part of the country, and help talent progress along the spectrum from an understanding of AI to using AI effectively to now being able to build AI systems going forward.
I'm speaking with Dr. Erwin Gianchandani. He's the NSF Assistant Director for Technology Innovations and Partnerships. You've hinted at this a little bit, but I want to follow through. National Science Foundation rarely acts alone on an initiative like this. You're going to have lots of partners. You mentioned research institutions. Other federal agencies are partnered with NSF here, and you'll definitely need to engage state governments and local communities. How are you working through the funding opportunity and then what you're thinking about in terms of practice to make sure you bring all those folks together to the table to sort out these community unique solutions?
Yeah, so I think that's great, Terry. That's a great point. So first of all, we were delighted that the AI Ready America initiative that we've launched is not just an NSF initiative, right? I mean, we take great pride in the fact that we have put out this funding opportunity, but we also take great pride in the fact that we have done so in collaboration with our colleagues at the U.S. Department of Agriculture's National Institute of Food and Agriculture, at the Department of Labor, and at the Small Business Administration. And you can sort of see the rationale behind those agencies coming together with us around this effort in some of what we were just talking about, right? How do we think about AI use cases in communities across the country? Well, one of those use cases might be food and agriculture, for example. How do we think about internships and apprenticeships? Well, labor has significant experience in that and has a significant body of work in that. And how do we think about connecting people with startups and small businesses that are thinking about AI in their ingenuity that they're pursuing? And so SBA has a big hand in helping to engage with us on that front. So we've tried to pursue, at least in this initial wave, even before we launched the initiative, some very strategic partnerships that make sense in the context of the design of the program and the goals of the program. And just like USDA has come on, I think over time we'd love to be able to engage other federal agencies with mission spaces in other sectors of our economy that stand to benefit from or be impacted by AI as we go forward. So that's sort of at the federal level, right? This is really under the purview of the Trump administration, very much a all of government effort. And we see ourselves plugging into that all of government effort when it comes to advancing the readiness of talent across this country. I think to your point, state and local governments, and thinking not just about state and local governments, but folks on the ground in states, municipalities across this country. That could include the companies that are located in those places. That it could include local workforce boards. That could include local schools and colleges. I think that requires us to say at every step of the way that we want to partner with them. We want to see proposals in response to this funding opportunity, for instance, that constitute collaborations across those different types of organizations that are really working together to, as you and I discussed a moment ago, be that connector when it comes to a coordination hub within the state. And so we are trying to do extensive outreach, both through our networks. NSF often engages with colleges and universities, and so we're engaging through our networks in that space. We're engaging through labor with the workforce innovation opportunity boards across this country. So we're trying to penetrate those different types of organizations. We just did a webinar, as a matter of fact, for the AI Ready America program just a couple of days ago. I think it was on Tuesday afternoon, and we had on the order of 4,000 people signed up for that webinar from all across this country. Actually shattered a record for us in terms of how many folks we've had on a single webinar for a single program launch, right? And so I think that we're trying that approach of how do we tap into the networks that we have, but how do we also go beyond that to others' networks so that we can bring new folks who may not be as familiar with NSF to the equation? Because you're right, for this to be effective, it's going to require sort of an all hands on deck approach.
Well, certainly the first step is getting those state hubs up and running. The announcement says that NSF may fund them up to $1 million a year for 3 years. What do you hope to learn in that 3-year cycle that will indicate whether or not this initiative will scale?
Yeah, so we have tried to spend a little bit of time thinking about, another way, I guess, to frame your question, Terry, is what does success look like here, right? And so I think that what we're hoping to be able to see over the course of a year, 2 years, 3 years is, first and foremost, increasing that AI readiness nationwide. So how many individuals, how many small businesses, how many civic organizations are we actually bringing into the fold and touching through this initiative? So that $1 million a year, $3 million over 3 years and so forth, how is that actually touching individuals across the country who now have access to an internship opportunity that they didn't have previously, or who are pursuing credits or degrees that they were not pursuing previously, but that has been opened up through the networks that we are trying to foster through this initiative. The second, I think, is also understanding that sort of progression that I described earlier along the AI ready continuum. So literacy, fluency, proficiency. How do we understand and sort of assess that individuals are actually advancing along that progression? The third thing is, I think success here also includes just simply expanding access to training and resources and thinking about development support across the country as well. And so the goal of this effort is not necessarily to be generating new curricula and instructional material, but it is about trying to be able to have the states and local communities enhance access to the best resources that they see on the table for their talent. And so what sort of dissemination are we seeing of that across the country? And then I think the fourth one for us is really thinking about we're looking for stronger coordination among education systems, workforce agencies, industry partners, public sector organizations, and the like. And so, are we seeing an evidence base of, not duplication, closing gaps, making it easier for states and territories to work towards shared goals? Are there states and territories in different parts of the country who are now engaging with one another because they have similar shared interests, right? So, for example, thinking about AI in the context of energy innovation. Well, there's a lot of energy innovation happening in Louisiana. There's also a lot of it happening in Western Pennsylvania and West Virginia. And so are there opportunities for individuals and those states to be collaborating, and are we unlocking that through the connection mechanisms that we have with this initiative?
Dr. Erwin Gianchandani is the National Science Foundation's Assistant Director for Technology, Innovation, and Partnerships, speaking there with Federal Drive host Terry Gerton. We'll post this interview at federalnewsnetwork.com/Federal Drive. Subscribe to the Federal Drive wherever you get your podcasts.